This is the Aflac Insurance Syracuse Legends Show, talking to the biggest names in SU sports history, broadcasting in the ESPN studios and presented by SummitCars.com. Here's your host, Mike Bristol.
All right, welcome to the program. Great show for you, like usual. And I kind of mentioned a little bit, on the Inside High School Sports Show who's going to be coming on. So we've got the great Raphael Addison will be heading on the program. Lorenzo Onawaku will be on the show. We'll talk a little SU Hoops, current team with Alan Griffin, but kicking things off with Raph here for a few minutes. Raph, what's up, pal? How are you?
How you doing?
It's always nice to have you on and shoot you a quick text and get back to me and pop on here for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Always, Mike.
So, Raph, I want to talk a little bit of early playing days. So we look at Jersey City in your playing day, Snyder High School. I want to know about the intensity of the competition, and what I love talking about you guys when I have some of the legends come on, the Syracuse Legends, is the amount of talent that you played in high school and growing up, and the guys that you competed with. That, like an everyday kind of basketball thing that wasn't that big of a deal, but you've got, ex-NBA guys on the court, you got this guy playing against, you got this Showtime guy, you got this big-time athlete, just great talent. I want to know about the plethora, the group of talent that you grew up playing with.
Well, it was a very talented group here. You know, we get together in the park, and there was some of the toughest games. And as a youngster, I used to watch the older guys, and we had guys down here, Michael Corrin, Jim Spinacco, and I wanted to be like them. So I watch, and then as I wait to get on the court, and once I got on, and I started to get better, and then we had younger guys like David Rivers that played at St. Anthony's and later with the Lakers, and we just waited to play, and it was competition like you couldn't believe.
When you look at the guy, who was someone that you kind of mimicked your game after, you grew up with, that was like, man, this was, I remember talking to Alan, he said there was one guy, I can't remember his name, but I just said, listen, the guy was like a local super. He was a legend, a local legend. Everybody wanted to be. This guy was more popular than any movie star, and it was a Rucker Park, just pick up basketball player.
Well, I used to watch a lot of St. Peter's College games and the Jersey City State, which is a Division III school, and the thing that sticks out to me, it was a guy there named George Peterson, 6'9", played at Division III level. I was working a summer job with him, but we would sneak in the gym every lunchtime and play one-on-one. And that's when my confidence really grew. Playing against him, he's strong, he dunked the ball, he was a lot taller than me, older, and that's when my confidence really grew, and I knew I really loved this game.
What was Snyder High School like, just in terms of basketball and tradition?
Well, Snyder was it was a public school, a perennial power down here, and at the Group 4 level, meaning that one of the most populated high schools, and it was very competitive. Like now, if you were a really good player, you go straight to the varsity. Back then, you had great freshman teams, great JV teams, and then the great varsity teams. So it was often that Snyder teams, all three levels, would be in the finals.
When you look at the coaching itself, did you learn a lot kind of going up through the ranks, or was it one of those things you got into college and it was just so different, the coaching style and the understanding of the game?
Well, I think we did a lot of stuff like flex cut, and we worked on a lot of details when I played in high school. So the thing that was different for me from college, from high school to college, was more like the physicality. The other part came pretty good because I was a student of the game, so that came kind of easy. But we had great coaching in high school, and also unbelievable coaching in college.
Who was the greatest player you ever played against in high school?
Well, I played in the Mike Donald's Capital class in that 5-star basketball camp. I played against guys like Lenny Byers, the late Lenny Byers, and was a great talent at that level. And I used to love John Dawkins' game.
Whose game?
Johnny Dawkins.
Yeah, John Dawkins. Yeah.
Johnny, he was good. So we played against some. I played against some good guys because I got a chance to get out there. Me and Dale Curry was good friends. Came up playing together. And I ran into some guys like, Reggie Williams and David Wingate again, because we all played together when we were in our younger days.
David Wingate, talk a little bit about his game.
cat-like quickness. He's like a track star out there, and great defensive player. That's why he was able to last at least 16 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
He just was a very consistent player. I didn't think he did anything great. He just did everything well.
Len Bias, such a huge recruit, or was going to be the guy for the Boston Celtics. Tell me about Len Bias. Did you have time to spend with him? Did you guys actually bond, or was it mostly just a little bit on the court?
A little bit on the court. We always in the same class. So I remember him pulling my shoestrings at a game at 5-star basketball camp, and he just blossomed, man. The story, because I was really good friends with Jeff Baxter, one of his teammates, and he just blossomed. Worked out with the football players, and he was on his way for stardom. And it was tragic what happened to him.
Del Curry, you talk about great basketball players going up against somebody like that. Talk a little bit about him.
Always smooth, and always smooth, and I thought, I played with some good shooters, Drazen Petrovic, Del Curry. Del was one of the best sharp shooters in the world, and I always tell people that I watched Del's son, who's supposed to be the greatest shooter in the world right now, Steph, out in Golden State, and I'm more surprised at Steph's game, how he had blossomed, than I am somewhat of Kobe, because I met Kobe as a 9-year-old with Joe Bryant, his father, known as Father Joe. You can see the physicality with Kobe, because his father's 6'9", but you just with Del, you don't really see that, and you don't see that with Steph. But for Steph to blow up and do the things he's doing, like a video game, that's more amazing than even all the things that Kobe accomplished.
The Big East, which I wanted to touch on, obviously, was just in its initial stages, but already making a national impact with Syracuse and Georgetown and Connecticut and St. John's and all these teams. How did you hear about Cuse? When did you hear about Cuse? And was it kind of the big launch of the Big East?
Well, the true story about that with me, I was home here in Jersey City, and I was watching Syracuse Tulsa in the NIT final. And I just fell in love with the way they played. And I said to myself, I want to go there. But I never thought it was going to be possible. And it's like my prayers was answered once they started recruiting me.
Unbelievable. What was that like, the recruiting? People talk about coaches contacting you, visits to schools, seeing programs, but when the letter actually comes or when the coach actually calls, it's always like, wow, this is amazing. Tell me about your recruiting trips and not just Syracuse, but wherever you tried or looked at.
Well, I looked at a couple of schools. The coaches that I fell for, like Jim Valvano. I went down to NC State, and you had like a Digger Phelps from Notre Dame coming into the house, and then St. John's and different people. But it's a very stressful time when you get recruited, and even though it's a great time because it's always nice to be wanted.
Valvano.
It's a very stressful time. Yeah.
You got to talk about Jim Valvano.
Well, I'll put this we went down. I visited NC State and Sidney Lowe, Lorenzo Charles. Went out with those guys and had a great visit. Went by his house. I remember him coming to my house, and my sister said, "Mom, he looked just like Joe Namath." I remember that very, very well.
What was he like as a person? Because you saw the stuff, of course, about him and the way that he presented himself and such a fighter. What was he like with recruiting and being there?
He was charisma. I mean, that comes to mind.
Right.
That comes to mind when you think about Jim Valvano. And then the same way he went out with class, that's the way he was in life.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear that speech, you can hear that speech over and over again, and it always would touch you, and you'll get something out of it.
But here's that guy in your house recruiting you.
Great feeling, great feeling. I mean, just unbelievable. I don't, the guys coaches that came into the house and talked to my mom. I don't know if I could have went wrong.
All right, Jim Boeheim or Syracuse University. Let's talk about Syracuse recruiting process. Did you already make your mind up watching him on TV that you're going to go to Cuse?
Well, once I visit and I got with Coach Boeheim and and I was already close with Brendan Malone. I think it was over because my heart was there already.
Yeah.
I think it was over once, but I did want to show respect to the other programs that was recruiting me.
Well, and that's naturally how you were and how you were raised as a person. You're always very respectful. In your freshman year, what was the impact of having seniors like Leo Routens, Sandifer, Tony Red Bruin as team leaders?
Well, I thought that helped me tremendously. I mean, I had to battle against those guys every day in practice. They had the leadership. I love Leo work habits. Eric, very fast. I knew going there that they had their starting five. I knew the starting five was coming back, so everything was understood. Everything was understood, and so I didn't have any preconceived notions. So I knew going there that I had to start in five. So knowing that, and then knowing I can get better, and then knowing that that sophomore year, the sky was going to be a limit for me.
Boy, oh boy. Pearl Washington shows up your sophomore year on campus. Kind guy, great guy. You take him a little bit on your wing, and then talk about that relationship and how it developed.
Well, like the things that Pearl did on the floor, and the way he was flamboyant, and it was a total opposite. So I think opposites attract. It was totally opposite from me.
Right,
like I didn't want that. I'm an enigma. I like anonymous, and he was the total opposite. And I shot the ball well. He passed the ball well. We just fit like a hand in glove. And then the fact that we can go out. We like we off the court. We like being around each other. So it just was natural because I didn't. Everything that Pearl got, I was happy for him.
Yeah.
Notoriety, and he was the same for me.
Yeah.
He was, and that's when you have a great relationship. No animosity, no jealousy, and we. I miss him today.
I've heard great stories, and I got close to Pearl early on, and then some of the stories you would tell me. Then I'd hear some other stories from guys. Pearl would be invited at a five-star camp or something like that, and coaches would just constantly be playing him, and he would say, "Hey, coach, let's give so and so a chance." And I'm going to give him my jersey so he can get a shot here. Some coaches need to look at this guy or that guy. When I heard stuff like that. And just being such a nice guy, trying to help others out, helping them, whether it was getting in school or being recognized or whatever it might be. And then, listen, I think some people might say you're one of the most underrated players in the country at the time, given your great numbers. And then you got, showcase Pearl Washington who's getting all the attention. Here you are putting up huge numbers and doing amazing things. And you two, didn't matter whatsoever. You knew your role. He knew his thing. You guys worked together. The way you worked together, it was just seamless. Wow,
I appreciate that. He's gonna be missed, and we both lived out a dream. We both made the NBA. Yeah. We continue to be friends, and it just was so sad. And I was just happy I was able to be with him for some of his last moments, and got a chance to talk to him. But it still hurts today.
Your games, and no question about it, one of the greats. God bless him. Your games with Georgetown are now legendary, both wins and losses. Who was defending you? How tempted were you to fight those grudge matches, those battles? I mean, talk about those.
Like I always say, Georgetown is like. It's like the bad boys, the Detroit Pistons of college basketball, or the Oakland Raiders, the Oakland Raiders of football. And they play that way. They hip check you, impeded your progress. They was taught that. Patrick Ewing and all of them, even when they had Michael Graham, the enforcer. And so they intimidated college basketball. Well, so that's the type of intensity and the games was called a lot different, back then. It was a lot more physical. And you saw a lot more of the rough stuff than you see today's basketball. So, and the big man is, big man was a big part of the game back then. So them Georgetown teams is legendary. And then you just think about watching them play in that final game against Michael Jordan and all the goaltending shots Patrick Ewing did. So and it's just intimidation. I think he did it on purpose, just for intimidation, knowing he was going to goaltend. Yeah. So great game. I'm just glad I was a part of it.
SummitCars.com spotlight interview. Raphael Addison, leg injury, senior year. What would have been different without that?
That was a tough one. And so, but I think everything happens for a reason. I mean, if that wouldn't have happened, it might have been first round pick. It might have been went to a team that wasn't right for me. Yeah. A lot of things could have went wrong too. Yeah. So I think that helped me to sit back, to learn how to work harder, to learn how to appreciate what I got, and I had to work for everything I got. Now, to make that NBA league, nobody ever gave me anything. I had to go get it. So that made me a better person. I had to persevere through things that most wouldn't even make it. So now when you look at the numbers and you look at the years of playing professional sports, everybody look back after all these years and say, wow. And I'm still anonymous.
Yeah, so true. Then there was your pro career, honestly. Let's talk about it. Italy or Greece. What was more fun? What was more enjoyable? And then obviously intermittent NBA stints here and there. But talk about Italy and Greece and obviously Roosevelt Bowie and a lot of the greats that decide to play overseas.
Well, to be honest with you, I loved it because it was right up my alley. Like I was able to play all positions.
Your game.
And I was able to be anonymous. Remember, back when I played, social media wasn't around.
Yeah.
So you could be doing all these things. You could be making good money. You could be putting up nice numbers, and you're kind of like off the radar. And I like that. And then the fact that they live a little slower, you get a chance to understand what family is about, eat, stay together, where everything in America, we Russian. So I learned some great values and cultures. So it helped me with myself, growing as a man.
When you finalize and you look at things, it's great having you come back. Tell me a little bit about what's going on now, what you're into, what's been happening.
Well, I've been basically, I'm going on my 20th year as a health and phys ed teacher.
Yep.
And you wouldn't believe it. Right now, I'm working at Lincoln High School at Saturday detention, and the kids are so good. I'm doing this interview and they're quiet, and just being a husband and father, and enjoying life.
I love it. The great Raphael Addison. Thanks for popping on, pal. It's always good to catch up with you.
Hey, Mike. Always a pleasure.
And help those kiddos. I know you are. Get those kids in.
Yeah. Oh, they're doing a great job. You don't even hear sound. They're very quiet. They understand. They're respectful. And so, and I told them the sky's the limit for them. We can do it.
I love it. Way to be inspirational. Raph Addison. All right, Rap. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, pal.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. We'll be right back. ESPN Radio 97.7 and 100.1.
This is the Aflac Insurance Syracuse Legends Show, talking to the biggest names in SU sports history, broadcasting in the ESPN studios, and presented by SummitCars.com. Here's your host, Mike Bristol.
Well, I was chatting with Alan here a couple weeks ago, the great Alan Griffin, and I wanted to keep our conversation rolling and get back to some of the legendary playing days. Alan, what's going on?
What's up, Mike?
I wanted to keep this conversation rolling here.
Okay.
So, something a little weird with the phone. Hopefully that gets better here. Oh, now it's good. All right, we're talking about Paul Robeson High School, your high school in Brooklyn, the PSAL. Great playing days for anybody that caught the first part of that interview. Obviously, I want to chat more about your playing days in high school and then get more into some of the other things. But you're an outstanding athlete, one of the best in high school, ripping through the leagues, doing your thing, scoring big points. One of the guys everyone's looking at is, hey, this is an incredible point guard, incredible two guard, whatever it might be, and all the talent you played against. When you look at the PSAL, tell me about that in those days and what it was like.
The one thing about the PSAL that, is different now than it was before is that, we had a lot of Division I players, and high Division I players playing in the PSAL. So, and I'll say that's probably not the case now. Excuse me, I'm just in my office going back and forth. But yeah, it's not the case now because, just a lot of the talent leaves. They go to prep school. Like, prep school wasn't a big thing when I was in school. It was one of those things where it was like if you needed grades and stuff like that, and you needed more years to develop. Prep school was that. And, now kids, they want to go to prep school, before they even try it out in the PSL or the Catholic School League. So, that's just one of the things that's different now than it was. There's just a lot more players, Mike.
Not that we're going to talk recruiting and stuff, but when you played, I guess when guys played, high school basketball was big. You wanted to win for your high school. You wanted to play for your high school. There wasn't a ton of CYO stuff. There wasn't all these leagues and all the summer teams and this, that. I mean, you played a ton of 101. You went down the park. You played. You played in the backyard. You put games together yourself. Has it hurt the game? Has it helped the game?
You know what? I think the guys that's playing now are so much more talented and athletic than we were. But I think when it comes to thinking the game and understanding the game of basketball, I think our era was a little bit better in terms of that. But the kids nowadays, Mike, from a talent standpoint, the things that they can do, with a basketball is phenomenal. Like, I was like, oh yeah, man, I wish I could do that.
Well, the way they would think about, just putting the ball between your legs in the air and dunking and doing stuff like that. There's some things that are ridiculous.
And dudes are doing it at 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot,
Yeah.
So that's just crazy.
I was thinking about some of the big rivals you had in high school, Robeson High School, and some individual players that you faced. When did you, and kind of two questions, this is actually a three-part question, but the first question would be, who was the big rivalry? And two, who was the guy that you're competing against in that big rivalry, or who was on that team?
I think from top to bottom in terms of talent, when I was in school, especially in the PSL, it was Lincoln High School with Stephon Marbury. And Steph was a little bit, older than I was. So, and his game was, he could have went straight out of the pros into, straight from high school to the pros, with him spending 1 year at Georgia Tech. But that was a big rivalry for us because we would play them every year. It was probably the hottest ticket in the PSAL. You had talent on both ends. You had a bunch of Division I players, and I'm talking about high Division I players. And it was just one of those things where, I was chasing Steph, and trying to be as good as him or be as closely to be as good as him. He was a phenomenal talent, and he was head and shoulders above everybody else.
What a guy to look up to, and what a guy to aspire to. Other guys are like. Here's a question. Besides Steph, when did you finally realize that you kind of arrived, that you were Alan Griffin? Okay, I'm Alan Griffin. Now I'm here. I beat this guy or that guy. What was it? A certain move across? When was it?
It was my freshman year in high school. We're playing in the boys and girls. It was the Kangaroo Classic, which is probably, at that time was the best high school event going on in Brooklyn. And we're playing, I forgot what school we're playing against. And Steph was actually at the game. He told me that he was coming to the game to watch me play. And there's just a bunch of people there. Everybody from Brooklyn was there. If you wanted to rob somebody's house during that time, you should have went during the Kangaroo Classic because everybody from Brooklyn was at the gym. You know what I mean? It was probably one of the hottest tickets. It was one of the hottest tickets out. And I went down the lane, and it was like a guy just kind of jumped and tried to jump in front of me, and I dunked the ball, 2 hands over him, and it was just probably one of the best dunks in my career. But it was probably one of the best dunks at the Kangaroo Classic. So
did you go off of 1 foot or did you go off of 2?
1 foot. I was a 1 foot jumper. I couldn't jump off 2 feet. Yeah. So 1 foot, just dunked it on him, and basically I shut the gym down. The gym, everybody ran on court. It just shut it down for probably about 30 minutes until they was able to get people off the court. And so that's when I felt like I was like, yo, you know what? I can do this, you know. And it was one of those moments.
Imagine the social media of that, or what that would have been like, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's funny is I never got a chance to seeing it on tape, and people was filming it. You know, I just never got a chance to seeing it. I just remember it in my mind. But a lot of my friends would tell me who were there. You know, one of my best friends was on my high school team, and we would talk about that all the time. And I just never got a chance to seeing it. The guy who ran the event, you know, he passed away some years after, and I was never able to get the footage. So, you know, I wish I can get that footage.
That would have been amazing footage to get, and imagine just like it'd be still living now. Then you could show all the guys that you're coaching. It would have been amazing.
I know, because they look at me. They look at me like this little butterball.
You're like, you didn't dunk. You never dunked two hands on some dude.
No doubt about it.
They have no idea. I remember actually just playing summer league with you and throwing a couple alleys, and you actually caught a couple nice ones. 6-foot guy. What are you, 6'1"?
6'2". Come on, Mike. I need every inch.
I think it might be shrinking with your older age here.
Oh wow! Shots fired.
All right, give me the biggest summer basketball. Obviously, Rucker Park, Park 4-4, all that kind of stuff. Give me the biggest summer park that you played and why.
You know, I would say more so than the Rucker because I played there, and I wasn't a Rucker Park type of entertainer, so to speak. Like, I wasn't one of those guys that I needed my teammates to help me be better. So, you know, with Rucker and stuff like that, it was a lot more one-on-one, and that wasn't, you know, my game, so to speak. So, you know, for me, it was playing in the cage at West 4th Street. And you know, you'll get anybody and everybody to come up the train station and watch you play. I mean, the games would be packed. It was a smaller court, but it just was one of those things where, you know, you kind of got up for it.
So when you look at all that has to do with summer hoops and all that, and all the great talent, and then you go and you're getting recruited by all these unbelievable colleges. Who was the first one that knocked at the door, and when did they all start?
You know what? One of the first schools that I identified was Syracuse. You know, obviously, Pearl being from, you know, my neighborhood, and you hear all the stories about, you know, Pearl and stuff like that. You know, I always had, you know, feelings for Syracuse. Syracuse was one of the first schools to identify with me as I got better, and I'll never forget. Wayne Morgan started the recruiting process when I was a sophomore or junior. I came up on unofficial with my uncle and the guy who I consider my dad, and Wayne Morgan were really close friends, and just him being in the business of basketball. So once we kind of got connected there and I came up here, I fell in love with Syracuse, and you know, obviously the rest is history.
All right, Pearl Washington, the great 31. You had to be watching him, know about him, obviously, with all the park days. Local legend, would pull in on his scooter or whatever it was. Motorcycle. But I used to bust on him all the time. So talk about the unbelievable talent of Pearl Washington and what he made for Syracuse basketball, especially a guard like you.
Yeah, you know what? One of my things that I used to do a bunch was the in and out move, in and out dribble, and one of them was patterned after Pearl. It was one of Pearl's, you know, fans. When I got to college and high school, I never used in and out. I was a little bit stronger and somewhat faster than guys, so I would just kind of go by. I was an A to B guy. But then once I got to college, I had to kind of start to try to get around and maneuver my way around some guys. And I remember my coach Hop pulled me in the office, and you know, we were just talking about Pearl, and I knew Pearl's brother Beetle for years. Beetle grew up across the street from me, so Beetle would tell me stories about Pearl, watching me play just locally, you know, right around the corner from where I grew up. and then next thing you know, Coach Hopkins showed me some footage on Pearl, and part of it was Pearl was coming down against Georgetown, and Georgetown was playing a 2-3 zone. And next thing you know, Pearl did an in and out, the two guys at the top, they both shifted the wrong way, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that, and that was one of the things that myself and Coach Hop worked on, endlessly, and it became a weapon for me. Now, I wasn't as good as Pearl with it, but I was up there. I had it perfected a little bit.
That's great. You were obviously sophomore and junior year as a shooting guard. Were you comfortable there? Were you glad to go to the point senior year? Did you always want to kind of be the point guy? I mean, it seemed like wherever you fit, you would fit and you make it work, but you always seem to be the guy that, would have been nice kind of running the point the whole time.
I was fortunate to play with a guy who I learned a lot from, and I think, playing with Jason, sitting behind Jason, and being around Jason Hart, every day, has molded me into what I am today. There was no one I've seen with my own 2 eyes work as hard as Jason. And Jason sacrificed going out in college. We went out to go hang out. Jason was in the gym. When we were waking up, Jason the lift. He kind of showed me the way, so to speak. And I appreciate him for what he did, because I came in a year right after him, and the one thing that Jason didn't do was some people, they get jealous and like, why are you bringing in another guard behind me? Jason embraced it, and we were able to play together a lot. So I was comfortable whichever way it went, Mike. Whichever role that coach gave me that year, I try to do it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, and Jason's did an incredible job in the NBA, and what a hard worker he was.
Nah.
You think about the game for you and some unbelievable, the triple-double against Pitt in 2001, the 31 points in double overtime win over St. John's at MSG. Was that like big time for you, especially being the city guy?
Yeah, definitely. And I was just telling Adrian, and me, Jerry, and Adrian was talking about just moments in college, and and my moment was before that game. And before that game, walking to the jump ball to half court. And right before, you got the little sticky pad there where you can step on it for your sneakers.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking past Coach, we're playing against Omar Cook. And, leading up to that game, Omar Cook was the best freshman in college basketball. And, they did the tail of the tape where they said in the media, they said, Syracuse had every advantage but the point guard position. And I was starting at the point guard position, and I walked past, and Coach's, undertone voice, he was just like, Al, basically go get him. Like, what I mean? And almost like letting the tame lion out of the cage. And he didn't say it that nicely neither, and it gave me so much confidence because, once I always knew Coach had my back. Regardless of what, if I felt like sometimes I felt like I should have been playing more or not, I knew, he always had my back. And I was always a team player, so I kind of did what was best for the team and kind of sucked it up a little bit. But in going into that game, I was like, and I knew Cook. I knew Omar since he was a baby. We have family, friends that's mutual, and it was just one of those things where I wasn't gonna go out and just let him just dictate the whole game and be this sensational freshman, which he was all year, and not have people say, "Yo, that Griffin kid, gave him some work."
31, baby, double OT.
Now, you know what? The most impressive thing about that too, I think I was like 18 for 21 from the free throw line or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Something crazy like that.
The guy going to the hole, getting fouled, making his free throws.
Making my free throws.
That's what you got to do. Yeah. Each of your SU teams, when I was thinking about this, reached the NCAAs twice to the Sweet 16. Looking back, obviously wanting to get to the Final Four, clearly, but, good runs.
Oh yeah, I think we had great runs. I think the 2 years that we went to the Sweet 16, we lost to the national champions. One was Michigan State, and I think the other one was Duke. And given said that, we in both those games we had every reason that we could have won, and then obviously it just unfortunately got away from us at some point in those games. And but the teams that I played on, we had some really good players, and we wasn't overly talented with like NBA players, but we had some really good college players that competed every day, and then that's why we were able to have the success that we had.
I love it. The great Alan Griffin on the program. Alan, obviously, thanks so much, and love catching up with you. And we'll always remember the 31, baby.
No doubt about it.
and I wish we had the dunk on video, the two-hander, jumping over some dude.
I'm gonna search that. I think I know somebody that might have it.
Oh, I gotta see it.
Yeah, well, if you listen, it'll be all over my social media if I get it.
I
Just
gotta
know that.
see it. Of course it will be. You'll be texting everybody in town.
Yeah, it'll be. You know how we in 4? It'll be 1K because it's not 4K. That's how long ago.
We'll be showing all over the news.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get some respect up there from the boys now.
A little bit.
A little bit. All right, man. Thanks, bud. Good luck today.
Problem.
All right.
Yep, no problem. Yeah.
The great Alan Griffin will be right back. ESPN Radio 97.7 and 100.1.
This is the Aflac Insurance Syracuse Legends Show, talking to the biggest names in SU sports history, broadcasting in the ESPN studios, and presented by SummitCars.com. Here's your host, Mike Bristol.
Let's talk to him. The big man, Lorenzo Nwaku, is in town. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good to catch up with you. So let's talk about this. I just this Lorenzo Nwaku, Scholars Champs. You've got a 1 day only. It's today. What is it, today?
Today at 1 o'clock.
1 to 4, 310 South Salina Street. Tell me a little bit about it. What's going on?
I have a clothing line now, so we make like T-shirts for the fans. So I have some shirts, some cool stuff I have going on. I have some limited items that I brought with me. It's like a pop-up shop we're doing there, so it's good to come up, see the fans, take some pictures, sign some autographs, and sell some T-shirts. AO
Studio pop-up shop, 1 day only, free autograph with purchase of any item today, 1 to 4, 310 South Salina Street. And then you're going to head to the game tonight? Yeah, I'll be here till Wednesday. I'm gonna watch today's game, and I'm also gonna watch the game on Tuesday. Oh, good. So you're here for a couple of days. Tell me a little bit about starting a clothing line. What made you decide to do that? It was just a fun idea that started when the TBT started, and this year was the 10-year anniversary of the 6 overtime game. So I knew that I was coming up to play in a TBT tournament this summer, and it would be something fun for the fans. So we were able to sell some T-shirts this summer, and the fans loved it. So we kept it going. I like it. You tried something, it worked, and now you're like, hey, this is another little business venture for me. I think you're of Nigerian descent, correct? Correct. Have you ever traced family roots and looked at that? Yeah, of course. I was just there in December, actually. Tell me about it. What was it like? It's not my first time, though. So, okay, good. Well, that's what I'm wondering, because you and I have never talked about that, and I just thought about that. That would be really interesting. A lot of people don't, and I think that's great that you... So do you visit every year? Do you visit a couple times a year? How often? Every few years. Okay. Every few years we go. See a lot of family? Because, yeah, of course. It's hard to get a green card to come over, so... Right. Definitely a lot of family over there. My parents were lucky to be able to come over and actually get the opportunity to live in America. So a majority of my family is still there, though. When you see and you go back to see family, is it incredibly dramatic? Is it just really emotional, really amazing? Yeah, definitely it is. I mean, we see the type of opportunity that we have here that they don't have there. So they're so delighted when we come back to see our faces, and it's also great to see them as well. Pretty amazing. Any other ball players over there? Anybody play you one-on-one when you get over there? Spank you a little bit? No. You transferred from, I believe, Duval to Episcopal High School in Alexandria, Virginia, correct? Yes. What difference, I guess, did that make in your development as a basketball player? Why'd you transfer?
It was really more academically. Going to a private school gave me a lot more structure, and that's what my mother wanted. I was always developing in basketball, and like the DMV area is like a hub for basketball. So many talented players in the area that you're just always around them and going to naturally get better. So I was lucky to be able to be in that area to just develop my game.
Like, other SU greats, you were close to D.C. You chose the Orange over Georgetown. Did the Hoyas ever push? How was that decision made?
Yeah, they pursued, they pushed. I mean, usually the hometown schools always find you first because you're right around the corner.
Yeah.
But, I grew up in the area pretty much all my life, so I wanted to see something different. So that's one of the reasons why I came up. All
right, tell me about the visit at Syracuse. What was it like? Who brought you around? Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I got a couple of guys that hosted me. It was like Terrence Roberts, Mookie Watkins. I think Demetrius was up here at the time as well.
D-Nick.
Yeah, Eric actually came at the same time, so we came on the same visit. And, of course, they brought us in the summertime. So, we didn't get to see the 2 feet of snow on the ground. But
yeah.
they took us to the football game. We played in that was Manley Fieldhouse Day, so we played some pickup in Manley. And, we had a good time with the guys. So it felt like home when we came.
Oh, boy. You average, nearly 65% from the field. I was looking at some of the stats, though many were close up chances, etc. Talk about playing at Syracuse, playing with guys like Rick, some of the talent you play with, the ability that you had to be the big man inside, block shots, finish around the basket, your basketball IQ, understanding the game, understanding where to be, what to do, because you saw these dramatic, just crazy improvements in the way that you play the game and your efficiency within the game. Talk about your time at Syracuse, but just the way that you were able to tackle and play the game.
I got lucky. I don't know if you remember my redshirt sophomore year, I started with 4 All-Americans.
Right.
Paul Harris, Johnny Flynn, Dante Green, and Eric, even though I was only starting on the floor that wasn't an All-American. So being around those guys every day, learning from them, learning from the coaches, I developed in a big way. So I attribute to, Bernie Fine was helping me out a lot those days. Of course, the knowledge of Coach Boeheim, all the above, just allowed me to become a better player.
You and Rick were quite the 1-2 punch inside, too. What was the best aspects, I guess, of his game that complemented your game?
We learned a lot from each other. His game was totally different than mine, but we both played inside. So, we spent a lot of time together. We watched a lot of film together. We saw how we can help each other get better, and that's what we were able to do. 10
years later, how many times you're reminded by fans that perhaps SU wins the national title in 2010 if you didn't get hurt?
Yeah, fans, and of course, every time Coach Boeheim sees me, he says the same thing. So, I hear it all the time.
Yesterday, we hear Johnson, the top guard in the class of 2022, committed to Syracuse, pumped up. I don't know if you looked at that at all, but it's obviously a great recruiting class, one of the best we have. Just still kind of, obviously you're a Cuse guy at heart, loving coming back to Syracuse. It's great that you're here in town, doing the shirt thing, coming to a couple games. How fun is it just to kind of hang out with the fans when you come back?
Yeah, it's always good when you come back. The fans still show the same love they did when I was playing, so it's great to see them and to get that recruit, 5-star, great player. It's a good start. Hopefully we can get a couple more guys in that class and keep building the program.
All right, give me one more time. Tell me about the clothing line. Tell me about the shirt. Tell me about the details of the shirt. Will you be selling it by the university for the games? Are you able to sell it up to the Dome?
Well, I have the website. It's called aostudio21.com.
Okay.
Everything is on there. And then today at the pop-up shop, I have about 30 items maybe that I'm going to sell, some T-shirts, some hoodies, and also some tumblers. So that will all be on display today.
All right. Very cool. I love catching up with you, and I'll chat with you after the show.
All right.
All right. Arinze Nwaku. I'll talk to you later. Arinze Nwaku, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Syracuse Legends Show. We'll be right back. ESPN Radio 97.7 and 100.1.
This is the Aflac Insurance Syracuse Legends Show, talking to the biggest names in SU sports history, broadcasting in the ESPN studios, and presented by SummitCars.com. Here's your host, Mike Bristol.
All right, here we are back on it, and a great program that we had. Arinze Unawako doing his thing. And check out AO selling his shirts. And we've also got Alan Griffin, who came on and just kind of gave us all of his playing days, which is pretty incredible. And, of course, Raphael Addison, the great Raphael Addison. So another legendary show here of all Syracuse guys in the books. We'll do the same thing next week. Thanks for tuning in. And good luck to Cuse tonight and get a big win here. So ESPN Radio 97.7, 100.1, 7, 100.1, 7, 100.1, 7, 100.1, 7, 100.1, 7.